It's been a long time. Welcome to the first official episode of A Lot Going On this side of 2024. Now, this is the reason actually why we recorded what would be the first episode of 2024 at the end of December. So you'd have something in January, because January, as we knew, was going to be absolutely crazy. But here we are, lots of updates. Joining me as always is Vic.
So last time I said we're on a roll, and that roll quickly stopped. But I'm glad to be back on it, although remote. It's still good to be recording again.
Yeah, we unrolled, but we're back for ALGO. We got a lot of cool stuff to talk about. I mean, in terms of us being off for a month, that means that a tremendous amount has gone on in our world, and we've had some fun experiences and some interesting insights as to what's going on in the world of like technology and media and content. But before we get into any of that today, we have to give a good chunk of the beginning of this episode to a big announcement, which is that My Friends, Your Friends 20 has not only been announced, but the co-hosts have been announced. If you've not been over to myfriendsyourfriends.com, do that right now and come along and join us on the 21st of February right here in Dubai at Media One Hotel. On the rooftop, it's called Coco Lounge. We have 20 incredible co-hosts. Well, me plus 19, but they range from all different types of people, all different disciplines. And so I'm going to use the beginning of this episode to give some overview on the profile of some of the people that are going to be coming to My Friends, Your Friends. So first up, and this is just in alphabetical order, Sam Thomas. He is the editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur Middle East, which is one of the leading publications on entrepreneurship. You see it everywhere around the city, and a super smart guy. Then you've got Alvaro Dassa, who's the founder of Circolo. They actually work with communities, pre-existing communities, and arrange all these kind of experiences for them. So he took the Arts DAO people over to Colombia, and he's kind of in the world of human experience. So a really, really super guy. I've had lunch with him a couple of times, and he's going to make a great co-host. Next up, we've got Celine Safadi, who's actually a girl who I met at Seoul DXB via our friends at One Life Cafe. Just had a really cool vibe, makes some incredible content. Chang Suk Chin, who I met through another friend of ours, Nana Sasher. An incredible restaurateur, works in the retail space, super bright, loads of insights about Dubai, been here a long time. And then, of course, my boy, Dr. Peter Stojanov, who is a partner at Created by Black. They are the strategic comms firm for BMW. I do some work with them. Peter's a great laugh, super smart. One guy who I've not met yet, M. Kwan, a super cool dude. His content's incredible. He does tech blogs and reviews. Comes from a corporate background. I believe he's gone solo now, and he's just like the nicest dude. So actually, I'll be meeting him that night on My Friends, Your Friends. So I'm hoping that the cameras are on for that moment. And then, of course, the legend Farai, aka Toxic from House of Janos, one of the founders of House of Janos, one of the best MCs, one of the best entertainers in the city at the moment, has got this groundswell between House of Janos, which is an Amapiano sound party, and really excited to have him on. Second person coming on from House of Janos. My Friends, Your Friends. Then Hamza Khan, again, super nice guy, founder of one of the most recognizable startups here in the UAE. It's called Let's Work. You can jump on their app and get co-working spaces and offices. Super nice guy. Next up, Julia J, model and presenter, really nice girl. Met her at a modeling shoot. Just vibed with her straight away. She had kind of like that warm personality that I thought would be great in a room like this. Then Lloyd Lobo, when it comes to community, this guy is one of the leaders in community. He's written a book on it. He's the co-founder of Boast, so he's big in the tech space, has had a nice, healthy exit, and now he's here chilling in Dubai. I'm also super excited to have Marissa Peer on board, who I met through a mutual friend, Daniel Priestley. She's the founder of Rapid Transformational Therapy. She's been on the Stephen Bartlett Diary of a CEO podcast twice. She's incredible. She's super nice. She's got such an incredible aura about her, and she's going to be down in the room as well. Now that she's just moved to Dubai, she's going to meet some of Dubai's best and brightest people. Next up, Mary Christine, founder of Be That Life, a gut health specialist. Amazing Instagram, really, really positive, really, really educational stuff. Really excited to have her on. And then a up-and-coming legend. If, the last couple of years were Alex Hormozy's years, I would say Matt Gray is up next, an incredible creator in and around systems building, becoming a founder, but having freedom of choice to what you work on, where you live. He's the founder of a company called Founder OS. He's had exits before. Really nice, smart guy. And then finally on the bill, Paros Norris, the TV host of Guy in Dubai, one of the most successful content producers in the city. Can't wait to have him join us. I mean, everyone's kind of always in and around Paris as well, because if you fly Emirates, you'll see his content on the TV there. Obviously, I'm on there as well, on the bill. And then Ritesh Talani, who is the founder of Enhanced Ventures. We actually broke the returning rule for Ritesh because he was, I think, on My Friends, Your Friends 1. And so it's great to have him back. And he's the person who's attended the most My Friends, Your Friends ever. So couldn't think of anybody better to have on the 20th special edition. Then Ryan Hughes, an incredible entrepreneur / content creator at RMA Motors, an incredible motor, like car retailer over in Dubai Investment Park. Then Sean Chidiak, which is, of course, My Parents Are Divorced on Instagram, the biggest comic in the region, incredible, makes super viral content, highly loved, highly mysterious as well. You don't see him around that much. And he's going to be at My Friends, Your Friends. So if you actually want to get that chat in with him or that selfie with him or talk to him about any of his strategies, he'll be right there to talk to. And then, of course, the incredible multiple award-winning Tara Rose. Tara Rose gets awards every 15 minutes for the incredible business she's built. Tara Rose Salon, they've now in Al Cruz, Motor City, and then Khalifa City in Abu Dhabi and Sadia Island. Just an incredible entrepreneur, transforming the lives of the staff that work for her. She really offers like a tremendous amount of social mobility to the people that work for it. Whether you start off cleaning bathrooms, you can be a stylist with a mortgage and a car in a few years. So she's an incredible person. And then, of course, an international co-host returning after a sellout event in London, Zamiha Desai, the founder of Professional Asian, a massive community owner, community, manager really on Facebook, into the hundreds of thousands. The people in her community are literally worth billions in terms of GDP. And she is kind of like leading them and coaching them and mentoring them and helping them see and recognize each other. So Zamiha is one of my favorite people. Can't wait to have her on. All right, that was quite a rant. Vic, what are you saying?
So, what's interesting about that last few minutes is that although you and I talk about co-hosts for My Friends, Your Friends every single time we do one, we've never actually read it out like that in that much detail, with that much context. Every now and then it's like, oh, we've got this person, this is what they do, quick. But that gave me so much excitement, like as someone that's going to visit My Friends, Your Friends. Yeah, I'm working on the event, I'm behind the scenes, everything. But I actually feel like I was on the other side of it, watching it and going, this is really exciting, because the type of people that we have now, I'm not trying to like be that guy, but there is nothing like this in the city that brings those types of people, 20 people at that level and that diversity in terms of their background, whether it be educationally or racially or, business-wise or experience or whatever it is. No one is doing this, because every other event, and I'm not dissing any event at all, but every other event is a little bit more kind of singly focused, whether it be interest or industry or whatever it might be. But this is so diverse. So it actually made me feel like I came out of myself for a moment. I was like, I actually feel like a punter, and I'm getting excited about the event even more. I mean, we've been in the weeds for the last few weeks, and that was a nice little moment for me. What I would say is that this is a few firsts actually for this My Friends, Your Friends. So it's the first one in Dubai for almost a year. The last one was in May last year, right? If I'm not mistaken.
It might have been March last year, Sucre. I think
right.
Yeah, March. And then we skipped and jumped into June, July, August, which was Toronto. No, it was New York City, Toronto, and London, one each month. So we did 4 My Friends, Your Friends last year, 3 of them international. And that helped our community grow by about 40%. We went from around 4,000 to 5,500 registered. So this actually gives us an interesting reason to actually email our community in London, New York, and Toronto, knowing that the majority of them are not going to be able to make it, but just letting them know that if you happen to be in Dubai at the time, if you're thinking about moving to Dubai, if you've got friends in Dubai, let them know about this event.
Correct. Yeah. And the fact that it's the first one in Dubai for quite some time, I think the heat's going to be on this one, because, normally it's packed and we get, we sell out very, very quickly. But I feel like this one's a really, really big event. And it's the first one, which is the first 20. So that's a big thing. And it's also the first one, if I just put a little bit of a kind of geeky hat on that, we've had a really solid team behind it from the very, very beginning within the business. Usually it's you and me, and then whoever else is around us that we can pull together, and we still pull off the event. But this one, we've got, 2 full-time staff working on it. You've got you and me. We've got other people that are around us that are supporting us and helping us. And we're actually building systems and, processes behind the event so that we can actually offer something different for this one. And I think that's really, really significant. It's the first time we've opened it out to sponsorship because we want to be able to, get more of our community members involved with the event and actually give them a shine, to like give them a profile to the people in our community. And it also adds value to the people in the community because now we're like talking up who's in the community and saying that, you guys should hear about these people that are really, really great. Not just the co-hosts, but the actual people that attend and support us through that means as well. So there's quite a few firsts for this one. And of course, one thing to mention is that it's an official after party for STEP conference, which is the largest tech conference in this region, which is happening on the same day. Now, this is not a first, it's actually the second time we're doing it. So there's a lot of exciting things and a lot of reasons to just to be involved, man.
Yeah, and another first, of course, is the first, which is First and 10 Production. So as you rightly said, this has always been a creative content agency First and 10 collaboration. But now we're going to be onboarding, excitingly, we can announce the first sponsor is Score App, which is Daniel Priestley's technology platform, which allows you to build your own scorecard where you can ask questions, assign values to the answers so that when you get to the end of this questionnaire, you get a customized response by the author of that Score App. So if you're the kind of person who believes that your business benefits from having leads and you need those leads to be qualified and you want to offer an immediate exchange of value for somebody who's given you their information, Score App is the one, scoreapp.com. Make sure you head over and jump on that as well. And we're going to put our affiliate link inside YouTube and Spotify so that you can also help out the show as well if you select that. So Score App is coming on board, more exciting stuff. And also we're doing a ton of research in terms of how to gel people and make them engage. Maybe Score App will be part of that. And then there'll be some more sponsors to announce coming up in the future as well. So really, really exciting times for my friends, your friends. I wrote in an email to everybody this morning that I'm literally floored myself. You're right. There were many special moments and many reasons to be excited about every single my friends, your friends. Doing the rooftop of the Opera House, no joke. The rooftop of Fountain Views, no joke. Burj Khalifa, no joke. New York City, Wall Street, King Street, Toronto, the Gherkin Building, London. But this one, although we are returning to a venue because we loved working with Mark and the team at Media One Hotel when we did this STEP conference collaboration in 2019. It was one of our biggest ones. So huge shout out to Venus at STEP conference for always, asking us to participate. But we've returned with a database of members that's probably double the size of what it was when we were there in 2019. And on one bill, when you talk about people like, Matt Gray and Marissa Peer, people were in the streets and in my DMs, people like, yo, have you seen Matt Gray? Have you seen Matt Gray? Have you seen Matt Gray? And then thanks to a friendly introduction by Daniel Priestley, like I've actually hung out with the dude. He's a nice guy. And I was like, not only is he a nice guy and a worthwhile contact to have, but probably somebody that we should actually have at My Friends, Your Friends. And then Marissa Peer as well. Again, a name that just got thrown around, exactly the same as Matt Gray's, and ended up on a yacht with her. So we vibed and talked, and she's really cool and really like super fresh and down with like what's going on in the world of like hypnotism, mental health. And, she's had 2 episodes where she completely blew off the brains of Stephen Bartlett on his show, Diary of a CEO. So I highly recommend you go check out Marissa Peer on there. And I don't want to just focus on those 2. Everybody on that bill has been highly thought through and incredible. So whether it's been somebody who I've met once or twice and had really incredible, meaningful conversations, and they're really generous people, or they are like effectively superstars, they're all going to be at My Friends, Your Friends, and they are keen to meet and connect. When you go to conferences, you typically see these people speaking, and then they get rushed off to a green room by whichever big media company is organizing that event. This is not what we do at My Friends, Your Friends. This is not the kind of events that Vic and I put on. It's direct access. It's all about the meeting. It's all about the networking. If you've been to My Friends, Your Friends before, you'll know that it's not like a dating biz dev, quote unquote, networking vibe. It is literally like hanging out with me and Vic in, a house party and meeting our friends. So I strongly encourage you to come over, head over to myfriendsyourfriends.com right now. And you may or may not still see a wait list when you get there. But if you don't see a wait list, then you'll see a ticket link. Absolutely get a ticket link. What I can leak today is that as of right now, the time of recording this call, this podcast, the wait list to apply to get a ticket for My Friends Your Friends 20 is bigger than the capacity of the venue. So you need to act now if you want to come to My Friends Your Friends. This event will be locked off in no time. And then after that, once we know that the guest list is full, we're going to 100% focus on quality and execution of the event to make sure that everybody leaves with a new friend. So that's My Friends Your Friends.
I just can't wait. It's going to be really, really solid. And just one thing on the curve, just one final thing, just to double down on your point. Yes, a lot of them go on stage and they get rushed off and things like that. The thing about this and My Friends Your Friends is that they know the vibe. They know exactly what it is. We've spoken to them. They know us. They know you. We know them. They've seen the videos. So they're coming into this willingly and openly. So they're coming in with an open mind going, we know that we're just going to be like talking and meeting and jamming with people. So for anyone that hasn't been to My Friends Your Friends before, or maybe only been to a couple and that doesn't really kind of get it yet, there is nothing that you need to worry about. It's just come along. And the one thing that I say is speak to everybody. We're all friends. So when people come to me at the event and, you know, say, hey, how's it going? Da, 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 what do I do? What's the plan? I was like, no, just go and speak to anyone. We're all friends. And I think that's a really good way of framing it, because once people kind of realize that, and then they can actually go and speak to anybody, co-host or not, they feel a lot more comfortable and they'll get a lot more out of the actual event itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've lent on something very similar myself when people walk in, when they go, hey man, you know, it's my first time. What do I do? And I said, simple, speak to anybody, let anyone speak to you. Yeah. And that is that. If there was a rule, it's that. And then as long as you're open to letting somebody approach you and ask you, hey, how you doing? And you're prepared to walk up to somebody and say, hey, how you doing? Then you're going to have a wonderful time. So that's My Friends Your Friends. We are a month into 2024. It's been a crazy 32 days since we last sat down and recorded My Friends Your Friends. It's also going to be kind of tough to remember what we did in that time, but perhaps a good place to start is where we left off on the end of the last episode, which is New Year's Eve. We were talking about some crazy New Year's Eve plans. Mine did a 180 completely, which I'll talk about in a moment. But tell me about yours. You said you had something fun planned.
Yeah, we simply just did a house party. So we went to our friend's house, you know, like parents of kids from school. So there was, God, it was a while ago now, geez, four couples and probably about 15 kids. I don't know. It felt like 15 kids, but I think there was like 7 or 8 kids or something, but they're all just running around going crazy. It's you know, it's a big villa, big garden, you know, enough for like a massive football pitch and a trampoline and this and that, you know, so like they're all just running around the house and running around the garden, and they put a beautiful spread out, like beautiful table outside, set it all up, barbecue, music, you know, just hanging out, chilling, met a couple of people for the first time that night as well. So yeah, it was quite good. I think it finished pretty late, maybe like 2-3 o'clock in the morning. So it was quite a solid night, you know. But that was it. Mine's not very exciting in that respect, but a very, very fun, very good night, very adult. Aside from all the kind of bubbly, I guess.
Yeah. Nice. And then anything since then? Any other highlights? Like we're almost doing like out and about in Dubai, but like
January version.
Yeah, January version. In fact, before we do, I'll just clear out my New Year's, because like I said, it took a complete 180. So I'll tell you like the original plan versus actually what happened. So the original plan was that obviously I stay in the downtown area in Dubai, downtown Business Bay, and right outside my house, you know, meters away is a full clear view of the Burj Khalifa. So our boy Sahil, who's part of My Friends Your Friends and part of ALGO, he's my neighbor. And I said, listen, dude, I'm really not trying to do anything too crazy. Just come round, we'll watch the new Chappelle, and we will order some food, and, you know, we'll step outside, of course, watch the fireworks, and then just jam. And I had some incredible drinks at the house. Like I had this really good, like Japanese sake, had some cool whiskeys, bought some beers. I was like, we'll just jam and like, just chill out and just be two old guys. Anyway, long story short, I order a pizza from 1-800 Pizza, and I'm like, okay, yeah, cool, come round, I'll get some pizza and I've got some beers. Then when he's coming round, I said, hey, actually, you know what? If we're going to be like hanging out the whole night, why don't you go to Sahil Nom, which is a super cool like cafe near my house, and grab some food, like some batatas bravas and batata haras, they call it here, like spicy potatoes and chicken and some other bits and pieces. So he said, yeah, cool, I'll do it, no problem. So he goes downstairs. Well, he's already downstairs. He's not come to the crib yet. And he buys this food, comes upstairs. I open the door and Sal is like fresh, like he's like full drip, right? So I'm like, dude, what the hell? Like, why he's dressed like that? We're just jamming at home. And he goes, yeah, just in case we end up going out. And I was like, well, okay, fair. I mean, you never know, right? But that's really not the plan. So anyway, we're eating Sahil Nom, having a few drinks, getting through like some sake and just having a good time and chatting, usual. And I'm like, okay, we're going to get through this Arabic food, wait for this pizza to come, finish the pizza, throw on Chappelle, go outside, check out the fireworks, whatever the vibe is, it is. The pizza gets cancelled. That's when it all goes left. Because I'm like, okay, we definitely don't have enough food. We're not going to be able to get any more food now. So what should we do? Then at that point, around that time, I see on our friend Beruz's Instagram that he's performing at the Green Room, which is at 25 Hours Hotel at Monkey Bar. So I'm like, wow, it'd be good to see Beruz DJ tonight. And obviously, like, sometimes he DJs solo. So I was like, this will be a good night. But then I see on that bill, on the same bill, you've got Beruz and Travi, so you've got the full mixed feelings. You've got Coleon and Crown Prince, so you've got both those brothers there, DJs. You've got Chef Codes, One Take Nando's, and then One Take Nando's is rolling with this other young kid, 24-year-old kid called Ray. And I'm sure there were other DJs and other artists there, but like I know all those guys aside from Ray. So I was like, hang on a second, this is a hell of a lineup. I was like, let me think about this. So I said, okay, we could go. So I texted Beruz. Beruz was DJing, but he answered the phone amazingly. And he said, yeah, if you want to come down, this is the situation. This is how much you need to spend. Da, da, da. I said, okay, yeah, fine. It all makes sense. No problem. So we go down to the bar and we get a taxi there. Now, a normal taxi from my house to this bar is around 12 to 15 minutes. So we're nervous. We're budgeting time to get down there because it's New Year's Eve. It's downtown Dubai. It's the hottest city in the world and probably one of the busiest parts of the city. However, the road that I live on, technically, is the first road outside of downtown, which is not locked off by the authorities. I order a car, and the car says it can be here in a minute and take us there in 22 minutes. So really 10 minutes extra to get there. So we were like, okay, this is a done deal. So Sal and I go down there, and it was a crazy night, like absolutely incredible. All the DJs were in the house. Like I wanted every DJ that I just mentioned, I want to give a massive shout out to because they were all like showing love. Everybody was on fire. I think it's kind of expected that every DJ is going to do good. But I must give a shout out to this new kid, Ray, this 24-year-old. So Namdi brought him over to me and he was like, yo, this is this kid, Ray. And I was like, what's up, man? He's 20 years younger than me, but tall, good looking kid. And that's, he DJs and whatnot. And I'm like, okay, he's young. So, he can only be so good, right? It's probably an upper limit as to how good he is. And then, and I said, do you do mic work? And he goes, yeah, I do mic work too. I was like, all right, well, that's a lot to take on at a young age, but all right, I'll keep my eyes and ears open because there's different parts of the club which had different DJs on. So, so long story short, everyone does an incredible job. Travis is completely mentally ill when it comes to like his DJing. He was on a different level. I think since his big birthday party at Green Room, something snapped in his head where he's gone from good to great, or like very good to very great. And then this kid Ray comes on, and him and Namdi are going back to back. And the kid was incredible. Like I've never seen a 24-year-old who can DJ that well and do mic work that well. He looked like he'd been doing it for a decade. So really, really good DJ. I want to give a shout out to all the artists that showed love that night. A lot of bottles were being passed around that night. A lot of red wine being passed around. Actually, what was funny, I chose myself a red wine that night. And then within no time, everybody was buying the same one. So it was really, really, really good. And we had a great time. And then 25 Hours Hotel just tends to do a really good job. They're always a little bit chaotic, I feel, at the door. Like, it's not always like perfectly well, quote unquote, organized, but you know, everybody got in, everyone had a good time, and it was really, really fun party. Probably the last time I will do a New Year's Eve that big, because I remember waking up in the morning and seeing like McDonald's on my SMS as like, you know, something that was eaten. So I was like, yeah, that was definitely like a big night. So really, really good. Had a wonderful time. And then the next day, you know, January 1st rituals. Our boy Ritesh Talani, it was his birthday. Over, you know, somewhere in Dubai Creek, some cool spot, and that's kind of like the recovery day for us. So New Year's Eve was lit, man. Really super fire.
Yeah. So, you know, talking of those guys, I've always said, and I think I've said it to you, I mean, I don't go out a lot, but ironically, January I've been out quite a bit, like just because we've had people in town and this, that, and the other. But yeah, Chef, Namdi, so One Take, Coleone, Crown Prince, Beruz, Travi, and there's a couple more that I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but they're literally my favorite DJs in the city. And when I do go out, the first thing I do is check where they're playing.
Yeah.
And because I know that no matter what happens, it's going to be a good night musically, at least. So if the crowd is one way or the other and or it's quiet or this, but I know I'm going to go out for the music and I'm going to enjoy it. So speaking of that, I actually went to, so, you know, my boy Don was in town earlier this month, and, you know, one of my oldest friends, and we got to hang out quite a bit of time when he was here for the week, which was great. And then one night, you, me, Don and Wes went out, and we went to Meat and Co in Souk Al Bahar. We had a wicked meal, bit of red wine, you know, just hung out. And then we went to Soul Kitchen, and then we went to Honeycomb Hi-Fi. Both great spots. First time I've been to either properly, and, you know, you're always telling me, let's go. So we finally managed to get the chance to go, well, I did anyway. Soul Kitchen was great. Amazing hospitality. Raj, just remind me of the chap's name at Soul Kitchen. I apologize, I've forgotten.
I think it's Shafiq.
Right. So
I need to write it down, but super hospitality over there. And also, sorry, I should not do this, but it wouldn't be complete shouting out that green room party without shouting out a dangerous DJ Ranger, who I know for 6-7 years, but really Ranger is a savage. He just did Coca-Cola Arena. He was opening up for a major artist like Sean Paul or somebody, and edited it. So sorry, you were saying?
No, it's cool. So then we went over to Honeycomb Hi-Fi. Patchouli was playing, you know, all vinyl, hip hop, R&B, just like effortless, really. I mean, Patchouli, again, one of my favorite DJs in the city, just effortless, you know, like knows her music, just gets into it. There's no frills in terms of like, don't want to go all crazy and stuff, but she just plays great music extremely well. And then Don was like,
that night, I was like, you're normally a very good selector. I said, but I mean, that night she was really, really in the pocket with a selection. Like, it was just like, that's one of those moments where you're like, I know Spotify and algorithms and stuff like that, but Patchouli just had a touch that night, which I don't think a computer could make. Do you know what I mean? Like, or the way she was selecting records was just exceptional and fine.
Yeah, and it's final as well. And you know, that magic comes down to reading the crowd, reading the room, experience. You know, you got to have feeling and soul in it. It's music at the end of the day. Yeah, you can put together a playlist or whatever. But anyway, I don't want to go down that road. But she was exceptional. But here's what I was coming on to. So my boy Don was like, I think it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I think Honeycomb was finishing at 2, if I remember correctly. And he was like, I'm not done. Let's carry on. I was like, man, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. It's a school night. I don't know where we can go now. So then just racked my brain. I was like, oh, well, let's go Paros in JLT. So top of the Taj, rooftop, reggae on the roof. You've got Travi, you've got Coleone, and you've got Crown Prince. So we took a taxi down, and it was quiet. We got there at like 2 o'clock, so we got the last hour, but the music did not disappoint. I mean, those three guys were really in the pocket. Like, they're exceptional, and it's all reggae, dancehall, soca, you know, that vibe. There's no hip hop, there's no R&B, there's nothing like that. It's just that. And the great thing for me is I grew up on all that music, so I was really, really kind of in my element. So much so that the following week, Rishi, one of our friends from London, was in town, and he was here on a vibe. He wanted to come out, party, check it out. He hasn't been here for a long time. So it was really great to hang out with him. And then on the Thursday that he was here, Shayla, my wife, me, him, his niece and her partner, her boyfriend, fiance, went to Topgolf. So we did a round of Topgolf, and then we ended up back at Reggae on the Roof in Paris.
Oh, well. Yeah,
so it was all of us, and then me, Rishi and Shayla stayed. And again, those three guys, I mean, it was busier because we were there from earlier on in the night.
Yeah.
And what a great vibe. Like, what a great vibe. Those three are really exceptional. And there was another DJ then, I apologize, I can't remember his name. I didn't meet him that night. But like you say about Travi, he just goes like, he blacks out.
He does black out.
He just blacks out, but in a really solid way. So yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to those guys as well. You know, on that night, I went so much so that I went twice, 2 weeks in a row. And as you know, that's not like me to do. So
yeah.
So it was really solid.
And like, you know, you see these brands that they've created, like Foreign Exchange, and there was the brand that Mixed Feelings came up with. I think it was called Remix or something. I can't remember. It was
Rework.
Yeah, Rework. Yeah, that was a really amazing concept. Some wonderful artwork. And then they've got Just Friends and all these different things. And there's this one girl, Mon Bell, that's got her own thing called Those Guys. And it's just so many. It's really starting to come together now, because, you know, when I first used to come to Dubai over a decade ago, it was very, very disparate. And then every night would be named after like whatever the hot word was in R&B at that time, you know, like the hot term, you know, swag or bling or this or that. So, you know, now they're actually coming up with like transferable brands. I think maybe the beginning of that movement was fresh, you know, like what Danny Neville was doing, that went out to Vegas. And yeah, I just think that, you know, when you start looking at like, I had a conversation with a DJ the other day, and I don't normally do this. He just kind of caught me off guard, but he called me and he said, you know, I want to come to Dubai and and what's it like? And I heard DJs can make, you know, double or triple what they make in London. And I was like, yeah. He goes, oh man, I would just need to play a couple of times. I know for a fact that they would book me. And I'm like, oh, do you now? I was like, when was the last time you DJed to a room full of Moroccans? And he was like, never. I said, all right, okay. When was the last time you DJed to a bunch of like Egyptians or Kuwaitis or Bahrainis? Oh, never. All right. What about the Nigerians and the Ghanaians and the Zimbabweans? No, never. I said, you're bringing that London arrogance. I was like, to get booked in Dubai, anywhere that's worth noticing where our DJ friends DJ, you would have to be at least on par plus free to get the spot. But you would need to compete with Danny Neville, DJ Bliss, Don't Touch My Hair, Namdi, Ray, Chef, Brooklyn, Mixed Feelings, Coleon and Crown Prince. Crown Prince has no mercy and will cut the head off of the DJ next to him. He's a savage. He is like the last of the Mohicans, where it's like on the turntables, there's no friends. So he's not going to be safe to you if you're opening up for him. And, you know, all the other DJs that we mentioned, I'm like, you're not, you know, Junior J. Like, these are not people that like mess about. And so I just don't know. Like, I feel like the circle, whilst it does expand, like, you know, you meet a new kid like this kid Ray, and the circle does expand and more artists do like jump in. But you know, I mean, it's pretty locked off right now. I mean, you've got to, if you imagine trying to enter the DJ scene in Dubai as having to play a 15 to 20 level video game where you've got to get past Ranger and all these people, it's going to be a long time before you get to level 20, 25, where you know, you can actually compete against some of these people. And what I know for a fact as well, because obviously I still hang around with like a lot of like, you know, rap guys and people that come, and I make friends with their DJs and people that are touring with them. And their DJs that are touring with the artists go, wow, the local talent and the local music here is incredible. And the same way that like in the last couple of years in the UK, where people say, I don't really want to hear American rap or American drill. I've got UK rap, UK drill, you know, everything, the genres that come from here. It's the same way in Dubai, is that they don't want you to just go deep into one sound. And only if you're like an MK or a Shorty Blitz or a starting from scratch can you come here and say, this is my sound. I've got enough to adapt to make it like localized, but I'm bringing something kind of unique and tried and tested. So yeah, a nice long rant on DJing, the DJ scene here. But I just think it's something you need to be aware of because, I mean, man, I don't particularly feel incentivized or motivated to DJ at the moment, but I would really take, and I understand the arrogance. I understand when you first come here, you think, well, I can teach Dubai better than Dubai knows. But yeah, man, it's the barrier to entry is a lot higher than you might think when it comes to launching your DJing or promotion career here in Dubai.
Yeah, 100% agree with that.
Wait, sorry, we can't end this without mentioning Scotty B. Again, Scotty B.
Oh God, yeah, of course, Scotty B. Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned him on this podcast before, but there is no like that. He's just too phenomenal. Like,
yeah,
you know what it's like with him, right? When I watch Scotty B DJ, it feels like he's got 18 arms.
Yeah, he DJs like an Hindu god.
Yeah, that's exactly the vision I had in my mind. I was like, this guy's got 18 arms. Like he's like when I say blackout, he doesn't even black out. He's kind of like gone to another level of that. You know, like Buddhism has whatever that thing is called, nirvana. He's in that state, like the most amazing flow state when he DJs, and he doesn't look rattled. He doesn't look like he's like putting too much energy into it in terms of like, I'm really kind of getting into it. He's just super sharp and laser focused, and he's outstanding. Like Scotty B, outstanding. He's never like disappointed, you know.
Yeah, he's dope. So there's so many good DJs. I'm sure many more that as we hear them this year, we'll mention on future episodes. But yeah, it's really, really good, really good. It's always nice to see Crown Prince because he is like it's associate, right? He doesn't give a shit. He'll just like when it's his time, it's his time. And I think that you can get some elite, wide-shouldered DJs in this city where you can have as good a night as you would have anywhere else in the world. So there's that. What else have we been up to? We're Sheeran.
Yeah, that's it. So on the kind of subject of music in general, we went to see the biggest selling show in Dubai, the biggest selling concert in Dubai, if I'm not mistaken. 2 nights. We went in the UAE, right? Yeah. So we went. It was at the Rugby Sevens. We went on the first night, 30,000 people to see Ed Sheeran in the round, outdoor. I was really, really blown away by this kid. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I've seen a lot of videos of him in concert. I mean, he's touring constantly, nonstop. I think Ed Sheeran is probably the best male artist of maybe the last decade.
You know who'd argue with you? The people that follow Chris Brown would argue with you.
Right. I have seen that argument. So Chris Brown is phenomenal. I can't argue with that at all. But I think Ed Sheeran is just a little. I mean, Ed Sheeran doesn't dance, but he's just a bit more of a rounded, And I feel like it's more in him. Like it's more authentic. Like I reckon that if Chris Brown did anything else, he'd be great. He's super talented. Like he's got into acting and all kinds of stuff. But I think if he did anything else, it'd be fine. I think Ed Sheeran is only built for music. I don't think he should. I've seen it. I saw him on I can't remember what I saw him on, some movie or something. Oh, you know, Anuva Hood and Brotherhood, that like those movies. Yes. So there's another one called Some Other Hood. It's just a basic movie.
I think it's called Anuva. I think it's called Another.
Another Hood, Brotherhood, and Some Other Hood is this like third one in the trilogy or something. Anyway, Ed Sheeran plays like an addict on the street, and he's really good. But he plays himself, but as an addict on the street, and he's really good. But you know, he's just a fun role. So I don't think he can go into like acting or anything like that. But I think Ed Sheeran is built for music and only music.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying I think he's in my opinion, the best artist of the last decade. It was a phenomenal show, like really outstanding.
Yeah. And his Ed Sheeran's nice guy, approachable friend from down the pub brand transfers really, really nicely on stage because not only does he do his records, but he also does a tremendous amount of like crowd work and hosting, which gives you that element of like the old 1960s, 1970s variety show where the singer will tell a little story, have a little joke. He's got great charisma, great personality. And then from the very, very beginning, he lets you know that whilst there is a band on site, the majority of the music that he puts together is back to Ed Sheeran 1.0, which is using a loop machine where he'll play 4 beats from, tapping his guitar, and that'll be the drum or the bass. He'll play certain notes, layer his vocals, and really build the record up. So the majority of the records that he performed were like a bell curve. Like, it's like they start off and he layers them up and he kind of builds it in front of you and then serves it to you. And it's really good. And the fact that the stage was in the round as well, and then also spun around, also meant that he could really kind of get around. And I've got to give a shout out to the venue. I think it's called the Sevens, a rugby stadium, but the way that they managed to get the audio in an outdoor stadium, I mean, the audio from the beginning was super impressive. Even when the opening act, who I'm sure name you remember, I don't quite remember, but
Callum Scott. Yeah, Callum Scott
was super dope. So even from when Callum Scott came on, the audio was excellent. But I thought Ed was also dope as well, because many times he mentioned the stadium's name, which would have gone down really well politically with the booker and the promoter and the stadium and all that. So and shout out to MMI, our friend Ty, the CEO of MMI. He did a really good job in terms of the F&B outside and the drinks and whatnot. Everybody kind of got served super quick, and the prices were not like unreasonable. So yeah, really, really amazing show. Only downside, which has become a meme right now, is getting out of the car park. There was really no adults in the room. It was just carnage when everyone was trying to get out. 3, 4, 5, 6 different cars trying to get through one gap between 2 gates. Whoever's in charge of the Sevens, who's in charge on site or on the property, just needs to do a better job, because truth be told, man, like, they should be fined for that. Like, they're making it like the logistics was so bad exiting that they should 100% be fined if they've not got enough barriers and enough logistics people. And truth be told, they should probably have drones looking at it from above to help people get out, because like, you could be trying to exit and you might need to use the bathroom. You might be an asthmatic who's forgot your pump. You might be pregnant. You might be epileptic. You can't be stuck in cars that deep where an ambulance can't come in or a car can't get out. So I just feel like whoever's responsibility that is, and I don't know the answer, needs to do a much better job, because that was shockingly bad. There were people not leaving there for 2.5 hours, and people not walking into their homes for a show that finished at, I don't know, 10, 11 plus change, not getting home till 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I think the show finished at midnight, and then it took a long time. But it's funny, because when I was in the car, I told Shayla, I said, you know what? It's a lot of people. It's a lot of people. And, there's only like a couple of ways in. I mean, I've gone to that Seven Stadium a lot because NA plays football there. So, like football matches for his club and everything. So there's only like 1 or 2 ways in and out, right? So it's a bit tricky. So there's a couple of compound things that happen there. There's obviously a ton of people, like so many people, plus taxis, plus coaches, plus everything. Then you've got, not enough people on the ground to support the traffic flow. And then you've got the way that people drive. And, people aren't disciplined in the way that they drive, particularly in an open car park. Everyone's just like reversing, getting out, trying to do whatever. What I said to Shayla is, yeah, this is mad, but I just don't think that they could have planned for this. It's so difficult to plan for something like that because there's too many like open variables. But then what I heard from the next night, the second night, same number of people, it was much smoother and people got out much quicker. So I said, they're going to fix it. And they did, literally within 24 hours. From what I heard, it was fine the next night. But that aside, yeah, it was a phenomenal show. And I'm really, 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 really glad that we went. Like, really glad that we went.
Yeah, amazing at 500 dirhams, which for anybody listening outside is maybe 110, 120 pounds. Like, really, really phenomenal value. Ed Sheeran is like a tier A artist of a generation. So if you get a chance to jump on this tour, make sure you go check it out as well. The catalog is super deep as well. It's like 4+2 albums. So really, 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 really great music overall. Ed absolutely smashed it. What else have we?
So that's it for me now. About there's some other bits and pieces, but I don't want to bore anyone. But the one thing that you do need to talk about is Ali Abdaal.
Right. Yeah. So even though I've not posted about this, and I think our listenership on this episode or on this podcast is small enough so that my phone is hopefully not going to blow up whilst I'm in the city. But I'm in London at the moment, and the week that I got here, and I'll be leaving soon, by the way, so I can't do any meetings in London. But the week that I got here, Ali Abdaal posted a shorts, I think it was, on YouTube, saying that he's going to do a talk with Sahil Bloom, who's a massive creator, definitely blown up in the last 2-3 years on Twitter. You know, Twitter's had you could argue that Twitter's kind of had 3 phases. There was Twitter 1.0, which was post South by Southwest, Twitter 2.0, which is post Trump, and then now Twitter 3.0, which is post Elon. So in the post 2.0 era, this guy Sahil Bloom blew up with, like, you know, a lot of thoughts and observations around the kind of Northern California tech, West Coast lifestyle business scene. And so him and Ali were going back and forth. It was really chill. It was at LSC, and there was a lot of creators in the room. So as soon as I walked in, I just walked in solo because I didn't really want to like roll with anybody that night. And as soon as I walked in, I saw Daniel Priestley. And then during the course of the night, I met some really dope creators. Shivani Powers there. She looks more glamorous in real life than even on the internet, and she looks pretty glamorous on the internet. But she came in looking like royalty, and she just came in by herself, notepad, you know, just studied, did her thing. Smart girl, friendly. Who else did we meet? I met some other super cool creators. Actually, you know what? Maybe I'll come back and give all those people a shout out. But like, a lot of people came up to me as well, recognized me from God knows where, and said that just to give me some love, really, which was nice because I really looked like trash that night. And I was just rolling like bundled up winter wear. And a few people said they wanted to get me on their podcast. So I want to give a shout out to those people. I think one guy was called Richard or something. You know, I've given him the email if he wants to do that. And it was a great talk, man. These two guys like really had a lot of respect for each other, really kind of did this interesting thing where they introduced each other as opposed to introducing themselves. And they had very, very kind things to say about each other. The thing was like about 10 rules for life, or like navigating life. A lot of them were talking about like health, wellness, just the journey, networking. It was very, very good. And 400 people in the room, 300 people on the wait list that were not able to get into the room. I think Ali Abdaal, I mean, we all hung out afterwards, and I was saying to Ali, I was like, you can do 1,200 seats tomorrow. Like, you could have done 1,200 seats tonight. And I genuinely think that if you stacked an Ali with a couple of other people like him, like even a couple of, not up-and-comers, because her numbers don't suggest that she's an up-and-comer, but if you look at like that Nisha, Nischa, if you had Ali, Nisha, you know, Mr. Who's the Boss, and a few other cats coming, you know, Daniel Priestley, and you put them in the Apollo, that would sell out. If you could literally do a hip-hop concert of productivity YouTubers and finance YouTubers. And I told him, I was like, I literally said to him, I remember going a bit too raw. I was like, well, you geeks are the new rappers, and I've hung out with both. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's sick. So shout out to Ali and the manager of the business, Angus, who I've been in contact with a lot. Really cool crew, love them all. And shout out to Daniel Priestley as well. So yeah, and everybody who met that night, really, really, really good vibes. I've lost the names actually, but everyone's been in touch since that night. But yeah, big up to everybody that came through that night. Really, really good night. And yo, man, like £15 for a regular ticket, £25 including a book, and the book was pre-signed. I mean, amazing. So Ali's book, Feel Good Productivity, is out now. Make sure you go get that. I've got it. I probably won't read it. I'll probably wait for the audio book, but yeah, fire. Love it.
Super reasonable, that is. And that Nisha, I really like. That's a really good follow. Like Nischa, right? Is a Instagram man, if I remember correctly. Yeah, she's a really, really, really good follow. And if I'm not mistaken, just done Mike Thurston's podcast as well. So yeah, like that would be a content recommendation, I guess. I'll bring that forward. But you know, one thing I would say about that kind of crew that you just mentioned, you know, they've been doing it for some time, and you know, they're starting to really come above the surface and get their shine like they should. But anyone that follows anyone on Instagram or whatever that is like, oh, try this productivity thing or do this hack or whatever, there's a lot of them are just bullshitters, right? And there's a good way to differentiate between the really good ones and the ones that aren't. Number one, if this person is getting mentioned all the time by people offline, that's an important indicator. So like Ali gets mentioned to me all the time offline, and we speak about him all the time, and Daniel and all these guys. The second thing is, if you see them offline on stage, so there's a lot of people creating content, but you know, they're just like, you know, try this productivity, I can do this and do whatever, and that's cool and all, but it's very like, it's a bit hacky actually, you know, it's quite meta. But if you see these guys on stage in the wild doing their thing to a group of people who have paid their own money to go and see that individual, then, you know, you want to start putting some difference between them and anyone else online, and really just focus your attention on the few that are great than the lots that aren't, you know? And Ali, Daniel, Mr. Who's the Boss, Matt, Nisha as well. You know, all these guys are amazing, and I think everyone deserves a follow.
Yeah, these guys aren't like ringtone rappers. Do you know what I mean? Like come and go, flash in the pan people. These are like they put bums on seats. They really do sell real tickets. And even if you look at like, you know, £25, 400, about 6,000 in gross revenue. That's if everybody paid 20. Let's say everyone paid £20. You know, you're not talking about a tremendous amount of revenue, but actually, what would we be talking? So if you got 400, maybe more seats than I thought. I might have miscalculated that one. So you might be looking at maybe, I don't know, 16,000 in ticket sales. So, you know, that's really good, to be fair. It's a great night at the office, but, you know, the potential is crazy, absolutely crazy. So, yeah, big up to Ali. Good to catch up with him. Hope to do that one more time at some point in the next few months. And it was a really, really good event, man. Really, really good event.
Cool. Do you want to do a couple of news bits before we wrap up?
We can do.
Yeah. Okay. So Alex, our producer, who everyone knows, has kindly put together a couple of pieces of news that we should discuss. So the first one is Apple allows their third-party apps onto only EU app stores. So Apple are now allowing third-party apps onto the App Store just in the EU. Now, I'm not an Apple user on my phone, just on my laptop, so I don't really use the App Store that much. I'm on Android. Can you expand on this? Like what it is, why it's happening now, and like why it's good, if at all?
Yeah, so the EU's got a very interesting perspective on competition, and if you play in the competitive M&A space, especially in the UK and Europe, you know, we've seen deals like Microsoft and Activision get derailed. They're just a little bit more sticklers here, really, and a little bit more strict. And so one thing that's happened is that Europe's very aware of the kind of monopoly approach that many people are criticizing Apple for having, because, of course, the Apple App Store is, in a high level terms, is a closed wall garden where you can buy your applications effectively by software. You can only buy it from Apple, and then Apple take a huge slice of the action. The way that we've seen this play out negatively for people in the Apple ecosystem are, if you look at Audible, which is the audiobook streaming service created by Amazon, you will see that the slice that Apple takes makes it's far too prohibitive for you to actually buy an audiobook directly on Apple, because Apple would take 30% of that payment and that subscription on an ongoing basis. And so this is a really, really tricky thing, you know, and Europe have stepped in and said, hey, listen, we don't believe that this is the way that it should be moving forward. So they've pushed for Apple to be allowing third-party app stores. Now, this is not the first time that EU has slapped Apple, because you could argue that the reason why the iPhone 15 has a USB-C is because of downward pressure from Europe saying, this is what we need. So that makes creates an interesting conundrum for Apple, because you can't just change stuff just for Europe. You have to then start thinking to yourself, okay, how do we make this something which is scalable across all different markets? And I'm sure that Apple is saying, you know what, whilst we traditionally didn't build a business model around, you know, third-party app stores, we're kind of forced into it now. Let's do it our way, and let's see how it plays out. So I think this is something, the high-level relationship between Apple and the EU is something that we need to really, really kind of keep an eye on. Right. And I know your community is used to, you know, obviously Android is very, very liberal, but it's not something that we're used to in the Apple world for sure.
So what I see, because again, I'm not really super familiar with the App Store, ironically, but what can't you get on the App Store, or what's so prohibitive on the App Store, aside, you know, you obviously mentioned Audible, but that this is even going to impact any users. Like, so for example, if you wanted an app, you could probably get it on the App Store, right? Well, am I completely misreading this whole thing? Because bringing in third-party app stores onto iPhone, onto iOS, or is it going to open up the consumer to a whole new raft of apps that they couldn't get before and they need now? Or does it just remove the cost element to the creator of the app? Or like, what's the fundamental benefit or reason that this is a good thing, if it is a good thing at all?
Well, it's still going to play out, but firstly, you could argue that it could be prohibitive to innovation, because Apple's the only gatekeeper to its user base. And so that means that you're automatically restricted to their rev shares. Also, it means that applications cannot make payments inside of the application without giving Apple a cut of it. So they are saying that if Apple's had it this way for so long, there's got to be other ways of doing it. There's got to be other ways of like getting applications on there so that third-party apps and other types of payments can happen. Because if you look at even, if you look at like companies like Spotify, they've like lobbied against the 30% commission rate. And they've said that if you don't allow us to do like our own in-app purchases, like, okay, maybe you've taken a slice of the action by getting this on your end user's phone. But after that, you can't just keep bending us over for this amount. And so this is what they're going to be tackling against. And if you go back to like the days of like, I think it was Internet Explorer was pre-installed on Microsoft laptops, or no, desktops back in the day, you will always get pushback, because this kind of bundling and stuff can lead to like quite sinister business practices. And so I think this could give an option for other apps, like, maybe if there's a macro app store that goes into Apple now, where they've decided that they want to take lower commissions, as long as the app store is compliant, then other more innovative, like independent apps can come along and do their thing. And it's not that there's not independent apps on Apple's app store, but there could be a lot more in terms of on these third-party app stores. But what will happen, and I think I wrote this on the group chat, if I can find it, I think we'll see a lot more complications around the fundamental code base that is iOS to ensure that third-party apps find compliance harder. And of course, the rights, the writing of privacy policies at Apple, which they've put on billboards for many years now, will continue to prohibit cowboy app developers. So the third-party app store still has to be compliant with Apple. But what happens in that third-party app store and who can publish to it, that's what's going to be a little bit more like free radical moving forward. So it's something to watch. I think that Apple's too slick for this. I don't think it's going to derail them. I don't think it's going to mess them up. I think they're gonna figure it out. And this is a long-standing conversation between Europe and Apple. And I think that I just don't think that Europe can. This is what I ultimately think. I don't think that Europe can outsmart Apple, even if it forces them to have USB-C cables and third-party app stores. Apple is big enough right now from a capitalization point of view, from an innovation point of view, from an influence point of view over like policymakers, that it will work it out.
Yeah, it will navigate everything. It always does. And in fact, this is probably a way for them to figure out how to make more money, because actually if it opens up the market for them, and they might take a smaller piece of the pie, like smaller like rev share or whatever, but then you're talking about increased volume, right? So,
well, they have. So they've released something called the core technology fee, which is about 50 cents, euro cents per annual app install. So that means that if you are a core technology, that could be, for example, let's say a Spotify or a Gmail, that even after the technology has been downloaded, let's say for free, the app will have to pay Apple 50 cents per user. So Apple never made money off, the download of a Gmail app, or let's say Waze, for example, right? Waze and all these guys have to make their money inside of the app through advertising or other things of that nature. So now it's going to increase the operating expense, because now you've got to spend money acquiring the customer, let's say your Waze apps, but then you've also got to pay 50 cents per user per year to maintain the customer, which means that you've got to make at least $1 to $2 per customer, average revenue or annual recurring revenue per user. So it's gonna put a lot of pressure on on these apps to figure that out. But as Alex said before this call, it is just in Europe for now. So it's not as if it's affecting the global Apple user base.
Yeah, and a big enough market, but it's probably just a test, right? Just kind of like, okay, let's figure out how it's going to work. The good thing about that is that, well, there's a couple of things, you know, like just take Waze as the example. I don't think it's going to happen to Waze, but using it as an example is that it's going to put added pressure on because of the cost of acquisition and maintaining that customer. But at the same time, it might help or push a lot of these apps to then figure out how to monetize their customer base. And that just helps, but it probably will sink a lot as well if that's the cost to be on Apple, you know? So,
you know, it's maybe sink is one way of looking at it. Another way is crush, because you got to bear in mind that when they've got this fixed fee coming in, and that's crushing from the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, the privacy policies are changing. So how you advertise to somebody inside of an app has become more prohibitive. So on Apple at the moment, when you install a new app or when you refresh a new app, it says this app would like to track you across other apps and websites. Allow or ask app not to track. So if an app is paying 50 euro cents per user per year, which means it has to make at least $1 to $2 on that user per year, but the capabilities of its advertising platform are restricted because of Apple's privacy policies on the flip side, that becomes more daunting for an app developer. And of course, Apple is no stranger to the Amazon model of if something's doing really, really well, buy it or copy it and make your own version of it. So it's a really interesting time. And of course, the Apple world is very buzzing at the moment because they've just released their Vision Pro. That's been reviewed now by Niloy Patel at The Verge and MKBHD. So keeping an eye on that right now. Not jumping out of my chair for it. A friend of ours has purchased it, and I'm going to talk to him about it once he's got it, but not really jumping out of my chair about it right now because it doesn't seem like it's going to be as revolutionary as we think. People are saying that it's cool, but it's not like a game changer yet. But again, when the iPhone first came out, it wasn't a game changer. A few iterations in, and it absolutely was.
Yeah, so keep an eye on that one. I think we'll do one more story. So TikTok and Universal are having some beef around royalty. So I think Universal and TikTok have got an agreement that is expired yesterday, in fact.
Yeah.
And Universal have put an open letter out to all of its artists saying that they're not going to continue with TikTok because of unfair royalties being paid to the artists. Now, Universal has Taylor Swift and Drake and BTS. I mean, it's, I think, maybe like the second largest music group in the world. So their influence and impact is not small. But what does that mean for like artists if TikTok doesn't have any of Universal music on there? What does that mean for artists? I mean, can't be a good thing, right?
No, with TikTok, the biggest threat and to Universal and why this makes this very much still in TikTok's favor is that he who owns the customer is king and TikTok owns the customer. Layer on top of that TikTok users are way less structured than Instagram users. It's all about much more raw content. And although all content per se on these platforms like Instagram and TikTok is user-generated, the content on TikTok feels more user-generated, as in the users are more present. Like you see more people on TikTok just talking to camera, giving tips, educating, conspiracy theories, whatever it is. Within the realm of user-generated content, it's always been very, very difficult to manage the reproduction of licensed materials. So what happens if, looping back to Ed Sheeran, what happens if the next Ed Sheeran is stood on Times Square or Sheikh Mohammed Boulevard or Oxford Street in London and they're singing a song and you decide to record it and you decide to put it out and it goes viral and that song is somebody else's material? How's that dealt with? Or what happens if that song ends up getting signed and 3 years later is the biggest song in the world? Now, is that footage no longer allowed to be up, even though that footage helped softball the record to ultimate fame? So there's a lot of complications. And ultimately, I think that going back to the Ed Sheeran thing, it is a case of you need me, I don't need you, because TikTok is breaking records. This is the equivalent of a major record label falling out with radio. Like, this is the equivalent of, like, you know, Universal falling out with iHeart Network. It's very, very big indeed. And it's one of those times where it's like both these parties, both of which are massive, both of which have incredible political ties. You know, Universal is the media machine, one of the media machines of, you know, the US government. Like, Universal can Universal can break a genre or break a sound that can ultimately affect how many people get arrested listening to that music. Do you know what I mean? And then, of course, you've got TikTok, which is backed by China. So behind these guys, behind these two extremely popular, extremely strong children, which are Universal and TikTok, that have fallen out in their schoolyard, there is also two very big, tough dads at home that have not been, you know, called on yet to come out and play. So let's see how this plays out. I don't think it'll come to that. I think at its best, this is a symbiotic relationship, and it needs to return to that. And so I think it's just like going to be a spat moment. I see this news story having the same life cycle as when people were using AI to make Drake records, and then Universal stepped in and said something, but ultimately got ironed out.
Yeah, it will get sorted out. And the problem is that the royalties for artists argument has been going on since the beginning of streaming, and it's not been resolved as such. Well, it's not been resolved in the sense where everyone in the entire ecosystem is happy, least of all the artists. And the problem is that no matter what happens, the platforms with the customers need content, and the content creators need the audience. So like you said, it is symbiotic, whether it be music or videos or whatever it might be. So at some point, some way or another, they're going to have to reach some kind of agreement, and it'll just get figured out. Ultimately, for artists, they've just got to go, okay, well, any artist that is relying on TikTok for, you know, their financial freedom or whatever they want for the month, it's just not going to work. So it's got to be a multitude of platforms. Now, the good thing about TikTok is it gives people the opportunity to get in front of so many customers. And if Universal throw their toys out the pram and don't come up with an agreement, well, they're doing a disservice to their artists, in my opinion, because they've got to use the distribution platforms that are available. Everyone's got to adapt. Even TikTok's got to adapt and realize the value of these artists on their platform as well. You know, you can have all the customers, but if you don't have the appropriate content in all of its facets, whether that be video, speech, music, whatever, then you're also doing a disservice to your customers as well, or your audience as well. So it's got to be unresolved.
There's no shortage of artists. Like, for example, if Universal cannot break artists on TikTok anymore, then that's a whole bunch of impressions, especially of like micro content, like 20 seconds of a song that ultimately makes the song go viral, that they're not going to be able to get anymore. Whereas still lurking in the shadows, you've got Warner, you've got Sony, you've got all these other music, you've got independent music companies, you've got podcasts that are taking a slice of music, period, where actually Universal not being able to, like, you know, okay, let's flip the story, let's invert the story slightly. Let's say TikTok says, every time we hear a song from Universal Records, even if a user's used it, we'll ban it. We're not going to wait for a Universal takedown. We're going to take it down. We don't want the song to be heard. That's a threat to Universal. We traditionally think about the license holder suing the platform. But imagine if the platform says, we're banning even if you want to play Universal music in your background, or you even record it in and dub it in, we'll take it down. So you're actually like blackballing and washing away the presence of that jingle, of that melody from the human consciousness. And a huge part of, you know, music's influence is coming from TikTok. That we've been hearing for at least 3 years that TikTok's the new radio.
Yeah, you know that there's that record, Little Boo thing. So I saw a very quick interview with that guy. I can't remember the artist's name, but he said, I did it, I think it was in COVID, but or whatever it was. He goes, I just did the chorus. I didn't even have a full song. Because, you know, a lot of these guys have full songs they put out, but you only hear a little bit, like Lizzo and things like that. He only had the chorus. And he put that out, and he's doing his little spinny thing in his room, and he put that video out, and it just got a whole bunch of heat behind it, and now it's a massive hit. He's like, I had to make the rest of the record after it went viral. I was like, but that's real power. So you're right. I guess my point is this, is that they've got to come to an agreement, because each platform is doing a disservice to its own customers, or the people that it represents, TikTok being, the consumers and the creators, and Universal being its artists and every professional that works in that business. It's a disservice, because ultimately you need the distribution, but you also need the content. Yes, there's so much content out there. And the craziest thing is, as a creator on TikTok, I wonder what percentage of creators know which artist belongs to which label. I mean, probably 0.5%. I mean, in reality, you might know Drake is part of, and Taylor Swift and this and the other, but they're big boys. But anyone underneath them, you're not going to know who they belong to in terms of a music label. And plus, there's so many layers to music, like the record business now as well, right? So there's licensing, there's publishing, there's distribution, there's the independent, there's this, there's that, there's production. Who knows who owns what? So there just has to be an agreement. I don't know what it is, but no one's ever been happy about the royalties that their artists get. Spotify gets slammed all the time. Snoop Dogg is out on record saying, don't put your stuff on Spotify if you to get paid. It's not the platform. 3 cents every 1,000 streams, right? Something along those sort of lines. It's not going to change your life, but it's distribution.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see the story shake out. We've seen the platform creator publisher trifecta play out in really ugly ways. We've seen Chappelle actively tell people, don't watch the Chappelle show on Netflix. They stopped watching it. Netflix then compensated Chappelle out of pocket for a deal that he did with somebody else where he wasn't getting compensation on it. So definitely worth keeping an eye on. If you're in media today, and I know you did media at university, but I'm sure when you did it at university, it was fairly fucking run of the mill like it was 10 years earlier. If you're in media or technology today, the amount of case studies and things that you can tear apart as they happen real time in front of you is so interesting. If I was back in doing my tech degrees again, I'd be like, my goodness, do I write about mobile phone technology? Do I write about AR, VR, streaming, AI? We're just living through one of the greatest times when it comes to innovation, especially because the world, no one really knows where the world is going. We thought that it was going to be, a year of downward interest rates, but that might also now not be the case. More stuff to talk about in episodes. Any shout outs that we need to give then? Is that the end?
That's the end on my side. So there's a couple of content recommendations that we have. I don't have any specific shout outs. I mean, we gave a lot in the show to all the guys on the music side here, but yeah, we've got some content recommendations. I'll kick off. So I found, it came up on my feed, was served to me an Instagram account that goes by the name of Omar Agamyy. So that's at OMAR-AGAMYY. I've shared it with you as well, Raj. So basically, this guy is phenomenal. It's headlines of every big news story that's happening, including the TikTok one that we spoke about, and things that's happening in politically around the world and economically and all kinds of things. But it's literally a headline. So what he does, he gets on camera, he looks off camera, and he says, "Hey UK, what's going on with you?" And then he'll cut to just the lips with the Union Jack or the British, the England flag or whatever it is that's appropriate for that point, or the TikTok logo. And it says, "Yeah, we just broke our deal with Warner Music because of this, this, and this, and this. Or, with Universal because of this, this, and this." And he's like, "Oh, really? But that's going to be bad, isn't it?" And he goes, "Yeah, but, and then it's just a quick back and forth. It's about 40 seconds in length in general. But it's really, 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 really good, because I don't have the time to go and search for headlines, read everything, whatever. I look at what he's talking about. It's all relevant. I'm like, I'm interested in that. Let me go find out more. I'm not interested in that. I'm good." But it's just a very quick, he'll just snap the headlines in a really cool, entertaining way, give a little bit of commentary on it, and then move on. It's very, very, very good. So I recommend anyone goes and watches that. If you don't have the time to go and sit down and read anything that's happening on the news, wherever you kind of get your news from, just get the headlines and then decide what you want to kind of explore a bit more. But yeah, I definitely recommend this guy.
Nice, cool. Okay, wicked. Anybody else?
That's it from my side on the content recommendation side. I know you got a couple, right?
Yeah, I have. So one that was recommended by Alex, which makes sense because it's a really good interview. Well, there's a couple of good interviews that I've done recently. So number one is Visionary Magazine, which we'll link up in the description on the podcast and on YouTube. Cool interview, very good interview. Took months to do, actually. There was a guy called Majid that reached out and said, here's some questions. Or he said, can you be in this online magazine? So I was like, yeah, I'm happy to do it. But more recently, like since last year, I'm like, I've sent people a link, which is like rajkotecha.com/videos. And I'm like, here's a good cross section of things that I've said before or my outlook when it comes to content strategy or business or whatever it may be. Please take a look at this first, because then if you consume that content, it's going to give you a higher chance of asking me something original that's not been covered before, which will give you a higher chance of getting something exclusive and meaty, and will also increase your chance of me, doing a collab IG post with you or whatever to get that content out. So he did. I'd say he probably put together the best questions I've ever been asked. And we covered a wide cross-section of, random celebrity encounters with Fat Joe, right through to origin story stuff from back in Manchester, right through to the future of community. So it's a very, very good interview. The magazine, if you do not get to the link in bio, I think it's visionary-magazine.com. Head over there and just type my name in the search box, Raj Kotecha, you'll find it. I also want to give a shout to the Thad Cox. I think it's called the Thad Cox Podcast. What is the name of it? Because he literally just sent it to me, which is the reason why I'm a little bit slow on it here. But boom.
It's called Exchanging Ideas. No, the Thad Cox Podcast.
Yeah.
And the name of it is Exchanging Ideas with Raj Kotecha.
Okay, awesome. Did I just put that in our group chat this morning? Yeah,
that's the one. Yeah.
Podcast. Episode 65, Exchanging Ideas with Raj Kotecha. Thad, a friend of yours, actually, originally, Vic. Me and him have had a great friendship for quite some years, and a super thoughtful person, the kind of person that kind of makes me think deeper and harder about certain subjects. We did the origin story. The origin story was about as long as that My Friends, Your Friends ramble at the beginning of this episode. So we went into some super detail. And we spent a lot of time talking about networking, and I made the case that whether you like networking or not, you don't really have a choice. And so maybe I'll take that clip and put that into a future episode of ALGO, but really, really amazing podcast. So I did his podcast. And also, of course, when we talk about the Visionary Magazine, the last episode of ALGO was me answering the questions. So shout out to Marianne on our team. It took me so long to answer the questions in this magazine that I just answered them to camera and then just sent the video footage to Majid, and he wrote that up. So if you're interested in that, you can go check that out. And I would say as well that Matt Gray had Ali Abdaal on his podcast, and they were talking about having Ali as like a key person of influence and scaling away from him. And it's a very, very amazing interview on the Matt Gray show. But one thing that Ali said on there, which was really transformative, which is that he started making content and started building his brand and getting some momentum. And so he built a team to scale his personal brand. And instead of like him selling his own milk, he built this industrial milking machine, which is his team. But then that started to become exhausting. So he said, listen, the best thing we can do is make less milk, as in make less content, put out less products, sell it for more, but let me just be kind of like free range and go and do whatever I want to do. And so he spent a lot of time talking about that. And I thought that was really, really interesting, because for us, especially as a business, like within CCA Group, we could actually just leapfrog over from me making my own content and building my own brand to, as opposed to building an industrial machine around me, we just leapfrog straight to me being a free range entrepreneur and us just selling whatever we're working on at that time at the highest price. So, yeah, really, really inspirational interview. I actually seen him the other day, as I mentioned, I think, but I didn't get a chance to tell him that. But yeah, super fire. So yeah, go check it out. It's really, really good. Hope you enjoyed this episode of ALGO. It's been a long time coming. Go ahead, Vic.
Yeah, sorry, I just remembered. I actually have a shout out, and it's one that we haven't done for quite some time. It's actually the ALGO group that we have, like our little WhatsApp group. because no matter what, even if we're not recording or putting out algos frequently, that WhatsApp group is one of the hottest things on my phone at the moment, because it's constantly like, they're constantly looking at the stories, they're constantly posting it. There's always commentary, like really like smart opinions and things like that. So yeah, just a big shout out to me, who's the first name on the group, Alex, you, Adnan, Arjun, Bal, Jessel, Hishan, Neil, Sal, Thad, Wes, and Kyron. I mean, these guys are really, 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 really smart, and it's good to have them, you know, on the phone, just dialogue on the phone. Now, I don't always respond, and I'm not really involved in the chat, but it's really good because, like with the creator that I just mentioned, I get a lot of my news from these guys and a lot of the kind of good commentary and opinion. So big shout out to them for like keeping that group alive, even though we weren't publishing algos regularly.
Yeah, I think I've been toying with this idea for a while, because there's a few people whose opinions I really respect and have listened to for many years, even people like trend spotters, that I want to put in there. So maybe we should have that discussion today or at some point, and just throw in a few extra people, especially people that we work with. And yeah, I think it'd be really, really interesting, as long as everyone kind of like plays by the rules, you know, in terms of like making sure that we keep it kind of light and high level, then it'd be quite good. So yeah, wicked, man. Amazing. Algo group has popped in. If you enjoyed this episode of the pod. Oh, I want to give one more shout out. Sorry. For New Year's Eve, I want to shout out Behrooz, because there's no way I'd have gone out on New Year's Eve if it wasn't for Behrooz. So shout out to him for telling me, yep, it's all good. You know, giving me the all clear to come down, and had a great night. Okay. Amazing. That's it for this episode of Algo. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you subscribe on Spotify and give us 5 stars. That definitely helps us get discovered and gives confidence to new listeners on Spotify. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, leave us a comment, and share this with people that need to see it. And we will speak to you on the next episode. I think we're back on a roll. I hope so. And we will we'll talk then. Thanks, Vic.
Nice one. Cheers.
Bye, everyone. Peace.